Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Perkenalkan, nama saya Yulvi Annisa Ahla dari Program Studi Tadris Biologi 2, Fakultas Ilmu Tarbiyah dan Keguruan, Universitas Islam Negeri Sumatera Utara. Dalam video kali ini, saya akan mendemonstrasikan mengenai model pembelajaran Think Per Share di dalam kelas, dan materi yang saya akan jelaskan adalah mengenai sel. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Halo, apa kabar semuanya? Alhamdulillah semuanya baik-baik saja. Sebelum kita memulai pembelajaran hari ini, ada baiknya kita berdoa terlebih dahulu. Berdoa dimulai. Berdoa selesai. Sekarang Ibu akan mengabsen terlebih dahulu ya. Yang pertama, Aulia Ramadhani. Ya. Raihan Ojo Samudra. Oke. Neila Nazmira. Nah, sepertinya sudah hadir semua. Baiklah, sekarang kita akan memulai pembelajaran. Pembelajaran kita hari ini yaitu mengenai sel. Tujuan pembelajaran hari ini yaitu siswa dapat menjelaskan komponen-komponen kimiawi penyusun sel. Siswa dapat mengetahui fungsi organel-organel sel serta dapat membandingkan antara sel tumbuhan dan sel hewan berdasarkan literatur gambar, dan yang terakhir siswa dapat menjelaskan proses-proses yang terjadi di dalam sel. Oke, sebelum Ibu menjelaskan materi pada hari ini, Ibu akan bertanya terlebih dahulu. Apakah kalian tahu apa saja komponen-komponen kimiawi penyusun sel? Apa saja perbedaan antara sel hewan dan sel tumbuhan? Dan bagaimana proses-proses yang terjadi di dalam sel? Bagi yang tahu, boleh angkat tangan. Di dalam seluruh tubuh makhluk hidup terdiri atas sel. Jadi, yang dimaksud dengan sel adalah unit struktural terkecil dalam makhluk hidup yang berperan sebagai penyusun tubuh makhluk hidup tersebut. Nah, setelah kita mengetahui apa itu sel, sekarang kita akan masuk ke materi selanjutnya, yaitu mengenai komponen kimiawi penyusun sel. Jadi, komponen kimiawi penyusun sel terdiri menjadi dua. Yang pertama yaitu komponen organik, dan yang kedua komponen anorganik. Komponen organik sel. Komponen organik sel terdiri lagi menjadi 4. Yang pertama yaitu karbohidrat. Karbohidrat berfungsi sebagai pembentuk struktur sel serta menghasilkan energi. Yang kedua yaitu asam nukleat. Asam nukleat terdiri atas DNA dan RNA. Asam nukleat berfungsi sebagai pengatur pewarisan sifat serta sintesis protein. Yang ketiga yaitu protein. Protein disusun oleh asam amino. Protein berfungsi membantu transport substansi tertentu serta mempercepat reaksi kimia di dalam sel. Dan yang terakhir yaitu lemak. Lemak merupakan komponen utama penyusun membran plasma. Selanjutnya komponen anorganik sel. Komponen anorganik sel terbagi menjadi 3. Yang pertama yaitu air. Air berfungsi sebagai pelarut bahan organik dan anorganik serta mempercepat reaksi biologis di dalam sel. Yang kedua yaitu vitamin. Vitamin berperan sebagai katalisator serta mempercepat reaksi kimia di dalam sel. Dan yang terakhir yaitu mineral. Mineral berperan dalam memelihara tekanan osmosis di dalam sel. Oke, setelah beberapa penjelasan dari Ibu tadi, apakah ada yang ingin ditanyakan? Baiklah, jika tidak ada yang ingin bertanya, maka kita akan melanjutkan materi. Jadi, sel terdiri atas 3 bagian utama. Yang pertama yaitu membran sel. Membran sel merupakan lapisan pembatas antara sel dengan lingkungan luar. Membran sel berfungsi sebagai lalu lintas molekul dan ion secara dua arah, yaitu dari dalam ke luar dan dari luar ke dalam. Yang kedua sitoplasma. Sitoplasma terletak di dalam sel dan di luar inti sel. Sitoplasma berfungsi sebagai tempat berlangsungnya beberapa reaksi kimia sel. Dan yang terakhir yaitu organel sel. Organel sel terdiri atas Nucleolus, Reticulum endoplasma, lisosom, Mitochondria, badan mikro, badan Golgi, plastida, vakuola, ribosom, sentriol, dan sitoskeleton. Untuk penjelasan lebih lengkap mengenai organel sel serta perbedaan antara sel hewan dan sel tumbuhan, Ibu akan menyajikan video sebagai berikut.
Cells are the smallest living units of an organism. All cells have three things in common, no matter what type of cell they are. All cells have a cell membrane, which separates the inside of the cell from its environment, cytoplasm, which is a jelly-like fluid, and DNA, which is the cell's genetic material. There are two broad categories of cells. The first category is eukaryotic cells. They have organelles, which include the nucleus and other special parts. Eukaryotic cells are more advanced complex cells, such as those found in plants and animals. The second category is prokaryotic cells. They don't have a nucleus or membrane-enclosed organelles. They do have genetic material, but it's not contained within a nucleus. Prokaryotic cells are always one-celled or unicellular organisms, such as bacteria. So, what are organelles? Organelle means little organ. Organelles are the specialized parts of a cell that have unique jobs to perform. Let's start with the nucleus, the control center of the cell. The nucleus contains DNA, or genetic material. DNA dictates what the cell is going to do and how it's going to do it. Chromatin is the tangled, spread-out form of DNA found inside the nuclear membrane. When a cell is ready to divide, DNA condenses into structures known as chromosomes. The nucleus also contains a nucleolus, which is a structure where ribosomes are made. After ribosomes leave the nucleus, they will have the important job of synthesizing or making proteins. Outside the nucleus, the ribosomes and the rest of the organelles float around in cytoplasm, which is the jelly-like substance. Ribosomes may wander freely within the cytoplasm or attach to the Endoplasmic Reticulum, sometimes abbreviated as ER. There are two types of ER. Rough ER has ribosomes attached to it, and smooth ER doesn't have ribosomes attached to it. The Endoplasmic Reticulum is a membrane-enclosed passageway for transporting materials, such as the proteins synthesized by ribosomes. Proteins and other materials emerge from the endoplasmic reticulum in small vesicles, where the Golgi Apparatus, sometimes called the Golgi body, receives them. As proteins move through the Golgi body, they're customized into forms that the cell can use. The Golgi body does this by folding the proteins into usable shapes, or adding other materials onto them, such as lipids or carbohydrates. Vacuoles are sac-like structures that store different materials. Here, in this plant cell, the central vacuole stores water. Going back to the animal cell, you will see an organelle called a lysosome. Lysosomes are the garbage collectors that take in damaged or worn-out cell parts. They are filled with enzymes that break down this cellular debris. The mitochondrion is an organelle that is the powerhouse for both animal and plant cells. During a process called cellular respiration, the mitochondria make ATP molecules that provide the energy for all of the cell's activities. Cells that need more energy have more mitochondria. Meanwhile, the cell maintains its shape through a cytoskeleton. The cytoskeleton includes the thread-like microfilaments, which are made of protein, and microtubules, which are thin, hollow tubes. Some organisms, such as plants, that are photoautotrophic, meaning they capture sunlight for energy, have cells with an organelle called a chloroplast. The chloroplast is where photosynthesis happens. It's green because it has a green pigment called chlorophyll. Plant cells also have a cell wall outside of their cell membranes that shape, support, and protect the plant cell. Animal cells never have a cell wall. There are many other unique structures that only some cells have. Here are just a few. In humans, for example, the respiratory tract is lined with cells that have cilia. These are microscopic hair-like projections that can move in waves. This feature helps trap inhaled particles in the air and expels them when you cough. Another unique feature in some cells is flagella. Some bacteria have flagella. A flagellum is like a little tail that can help a cell move or propel itself. The only human cell that has a flagellum is a sperm cell. In summary, remember, eukaryotic cells are plant and animal cells with a nucleus and membrane-enclosed organelles, while prokaryotic cells are unicellular organisms without these things. All cells have a cell membrane, cytoplasm, and genetic material. And even though only plant cells have chloroplasts, both plant and animal cells have mitochondria.
Setelah melihat video tadi, Ibu harap kalian paham mengenai fungsi organel sel serta perbedaan antara sel hewan dan sel tumbuhan. Selanjutnya kita akan masuk ke materi yang terakhir, yaitu mengenai transport sel. Transport sel terbagi menjadi dua, yaitu transport aktif dan transport pasif. Pada transport aktif, molekul zat terlarut berpindah dari keadaan hipotonis menuju keadaan hipertonis dengan bantuan energi dalam bentuk ATP, contohnya eksositosis dan endositosis. Sedangkan pada transport pasif, molekul zat terlarut berpindah dari satu tempat ke tempat lain menggunakan prinsip perbedaan konsentrasi tanpa memerlukan adanya energi, contohnya difusi dan osmosis. Untuk penjelasan lebih lengkap mengenai transport sel dapat kalian lihat pada video berikut ini.
Hey, it's Professor Dave. Let's talk about the cell membrane.
He knows a lot about the science stuff. Professor Dave explains.
We probably know that living organisms are made of cells. From unicellular organisms like bacteria, which are made of just one cell, to large animals that are made of trillions of cells. One key feature of a cell is the cell membrane or plasma membrane, which separates what's inside the cell from what's outside of the cell. This is a very important function because without this separation, there could be no such thing as life, because an organism must be distinct from its surroundings. Inside a cell is where metabolism takes place and genetic information is stored under regulated conditions or homeostasis. The cell membrane is semi-permeable, meaning it lets some things through while preventing other things. And now that we know about lipids, we are ready to understand this outermost layer of the cell in more detail. That's because the structure of the plasma membrane is similar to the soap micelles we learned about, where the molecules arrange themselves with the hydrophilic heads facing out and the hydrophobic tails pointing in, except that instead of a micelle, it is a phospholipid bilayer that engulfs the contents of the cell. It's called a bilayer because it's two layers of phospholipids, which each have a phosphate group similar to the carboxylate group in the soap molecules, with formal charges that can interact with water molecules, and nonpolar fatty acid tails, one saturated, the other unsaturated, which prefer to stay hidden from water molecules. One layer faces outwards to the aqueous environment outside of the cell, and the other layer faces inwards to the aqueous environment inside the cell. That means there are two layers of nonpolar material in between. This is part of what makes this membrane semi-permeable. Some compounds are able to traverse this nonpolar section, and others are not. We refer to this bilayer as a fluid mosaic because these phospholipids are not fixed in their location with respect to one another. They are swimming around and constantly changing places, like concert goers navigating through the crowd. But it's not just phospholipids in the membrane. There are molecules of cholesterol, which give the cell membrane some rigidity. Otherwise, it would be too fluid. In addition, the cell membrane is filled with many different proteins that have a wide variety of functions. Some of these are channel proteins, which float about in the sea of phospholipids and facilitate the movement of some kind of molecule across the membrane. Let's learn about these proteins and the different ways that substances can move in or out of the cell. Some molecules don't need help to get through the membrane. Small nonpolar molecules are able to go right through the lipid bilayer because they are not repelled by this nonpolar material. This is how oxygen and carbon dioxide get across, since they are tiny and nonpolar. This process is an example of diffusion, where molecules move across the membrane along with a concentration gradient, spontaneously moving from higher concentration to lower concentration, just the same way gases spontaneously fill up a room. Other molecules need help to get in and out of the cell. Some molecules can get through via passive transport, which doesn't cost any energy. This includes polar molecules like water and glucose, as well as various ions, which can move through special transmembrane proteins that connect the intracellular space and extracellular space, so that these polar or formally charged particles don't have to push their way through the nonpolar tails of the lipid bilayer. This kind of transport doesn't require energy expenditure when the particles are moving with the concentration gradient, because it is an entropically favorable process, and we can refer to this process as facilitated diffusion. So something like a sodium or potassium ion, when moving with the gradient from high concentration to low concentration, can pass through by passive transport, which is a kind of diffusion. But when things need to move against the concentration gradient, active transport is required. Since this is an entropically unfavorable process, there will have to be an energy expenditure involved. So certain proteins, like a sodium-potassium pump, use up ATP, the molecule that is the currency of cellular energy, to move sodium ions out of the cell and potassium ions into the cell against the concentration gradient, from low concentration to high concentration. We will talk more about ATP later. Transport proteins that assist in either passive or active transport are highly specific, each allowing only a particular substance or small group of similar substances to pass through. Aquaporins move water, ion channels move ions, and so forth. Some of these are channel proteins that remain open, and some are carrier proteins, which alternate between two conformations, like the glucose transporter, where binding with glucose causes it to change shape, and then, once glucose is released, it changes back to its original conformation. Beyond transport proteins, there are many other types of proteins in the cell membrane. There are glycoproteins with oligosaccharide chains jutting out that help cells recognize one another. There are scaffold proteins that bind with structures inside or outside of the cell to maintain cell shape and location. And lastly, there are receptor proteins that receive signals from outside of the cell. Let's learn about those next.
Nah, setelah Setelah penjelasan dari Ibu tadi, sekarang Ibu akan membagi kalian dalam kelompok kecil, yang mana dalam satu kelompok terdiri atas 2 orang. Kalian dapat berpasangan dengan teman sebangku kalian. Nah, sekarang kalian dapat berdiskusi dengan teman kalian untuk mengerjakan lembar kegiatan yang telah Ibu berikan. Pada kertas yang telah Ibu berikan, pada kegiatan pertama, Ibu telah menyajikan gambar sel hewan dengan sel tumbuhan dan tabel keberadaan organel sel pada sel hewan dan sel tumbuhan. Kalian dapat mengisi tabel perbedaan organel sel hewan dan sel tumbuhan dengan memberikan tanda centang jika ada dan tanda strip jika tidak ada. Nah, pada kegiatan kedua, Ibu telah memberikan tabel yang berisi jenis transport, prinsip kerja, dan fungsi. Kalian dapat mengisi tabel, prinsip kerja, dan fungsi sesuai dengan jenis transfer yang telah Ibu berikan. Nah, sekarang Ibu beri waktu 20 menit untuk kalian berdiskusi untuk mengisi lembar kerja yang telah Ibu berikan. Nah, waktu sudah habis. Sekarang Ibu akan memanggil beberapa perwakilan kelompok untuk mempresentasikan hasil diskusinya. Dan bagi kelompok yang tidak Ibu panggil, harap menyimak jawaban dari temannya ya. Baiklah, kepada kelompok 5, Ibu persilahkan. Nah, setelah pemaparan dari kelompok 5 tadi, apakah dari kelompok lain ada yang ingin mengajukan pertanyaan? Baiklah, sekian pembelajaran kita hari ini. Ada sedikit informasi yang ingin Ibu tambahkan terkait perbedaan antara sel hewan dan sel tumbuhan. Jadi, perbedaan sel hewan dan sel tumbuhan terletak pada organel selnya. Organel sel yang hanya dimiliki oleh hewan adalah lisosom dan sentrosom, sedangkan organel sel yang hanya dimiliki tumbuhan adalah Chloroplast, vakuola, dan dinding sel. Baiklah, sekian pembelajaran kita hari ini. Lebih dan kurang Ibu mohon maaf. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.